It was a quiet evening in the small coastal town of Seabrook, where life moved at a slow and predictable pace. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple before fading into darkness. Stars began to twinkle faintly, their light piercing through the thin veil of clouds. People were settling down for the night, children tucked into bed, adults sipping tea or watching TV, fishermen preparing their boats for an early morning haul. Everything seemed normal, peaceful even. But that peace wouldn't last long. Exactly 9:47 p.m. A low hum filled the air, barely noticeable at first. It sounded like the distant rumble of thunder, except there wasn't a storm in sight. Dogs started barking uncontrollably, their sharp cries echoing through the streets. Birds abandoned their perches, flapping wildly as if fleeing from some unseen danger. Even the ocean seemed restless, its waves crashing harder against the shore than usual. Confused residents stepped outside to investigate, squinting up at the sky. What they saw next would haunt them forever. High above, the stars began to flicker erratically, as though someone had disturbed the fabric of space itself. Then, without warning, the sky split open. Not metaphorically, but literally. A jagged tear appeared, glowing with an otherworldly blue light. It stretched wide across the heavens, revealing something no human eyes had ever witnessed before. Massive structures emerged from the rift, silently gliding into view. They were enormous, dwarfing anything humanity had built. Sleek and metallic, these ships bristled with weapons and strange symbols etched along their hulls. Each vessel shimmered faintly, pulsating with energy that made the surrounding air crackle. These weren't ordinary spaceships. They were star destroyers, capable of obliterating entire planets with ease. The townspeople froze in shock, their mouths agape. Some fell to their knees, clutching rosaries or muttering prayers under their breath. Others grabbed their phones, snapping pictures and recording videos to share with the world. Within minutes, social media exploded with posts tagged Soyuz, Sky Split, and luring star destroyers. News outlets scrambled to cover the event, sending reporters to Seabrook and nearby cities. Scientists debated on live television, trying to explain what had happened. Was this some kind of natural phenomenon? A government experiment gone wrong? Or was it proof of extraterrestrial life? As word spread, panic rippled across the globe. In New York City, Times Square became a sea of flashing cameras and terrified faces. Crowds gathered beneath towering billboards displaying images of the mysterious ships. In Tokyo, office workers rushed out of skyscrapers, pointing upward as neon lights reflected off the eerie glow emanating from the sky. Even remote villages deep in the Amazon rainforest felt the tremors caused by the rift, their elders whispering ancient legends about gods descending from the heavens. Governments issued emergency alerts, urging citizens to stay calm and avoid large gatherings. Military bases went on high alert, fighter jets roaring into the sky to intercept the invaders. Or, so they hoped. But the star destroyers didn't attack. They simply hovered there, silent and unmoving as if observing Earth. Their presence was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. For every person who marveled at their beauty, another cowered in fear of what might come next. Conspiracy theories multiplied overnight. Some claimed the ships belonged to aliens bent on enslaving humanity. Others believed they were remnants of Atlantis, risen from the depths of the ocean after centuries of slumber. A few optimists dared to suggest they were sent by benevolent beings here to guide humanity toward a brighter future. No one knew for sure, and that uncertainty only fueled the chaos. Meanwhile, aboard a distant alien command center orbiting a dying star, Commander Vrax stared at the live feed from Earth's atmosphere. His six-fingered hands clenched tightly. Around the edges of his console, his crimson eyes wide with disbelief. "Impossible," he muttered, his voice trembling slightly. The Zorathians, a highly advanced species known for conquering weaker civilizations, had spent decades planning their invasion of Earth. Scouts had reported back with glowing reviews: primitive technology, fragile ecosystems, easy pickings. Humanity had been marked as their next target, scheduled for assimilation within the year. But now, this? Commander Vrax turned to his advisors, who buzzed anxiously around him like insects. One of them, a wiry scientist named Krill, stepped forward hesitantly. "Sir, we've analyzed the data. Those ships, they're not native to Earth. They must have been dormant underground or hidden in plain sight until now. Whatever triggered them, it wasn't random." Vrax growled low in his throat, his sharp teeth glinting under the dim red lighting of the bridge. "Dormant? Hidden? Do you think I don't know that?" He jabbed a clawed finger at the screen. "What matters is how they got there in the first place. Who built them? And why are they active now?" Creel hesitated, clearly afraid to speak further. Finally, he stammered, "We believe they predate modern human civilization. Perhaps they're relics of an ancient race that once ruled this galaxy." The room fell silent as everyone processed the implications. If true, this changed everything. The Zorathians prided themselves on being the most powerful species in the universe, feared by all. Yet here was evidence of a rival force, one far older and potentially more advanced. The thought sent shivers down Vrax's spine, though he'd never admit it aloud. Instead, he barked orders demanding contingency plans and evacuation routes. Whatever those ships were, they couldn't be allowed to interfere with the Zorathian agenda. Back on Earth, scientists worked tirelessly to unravel the mystery. Dr. Emily Carter, a renowned astrophysicist based in London, led a team tasked with analyzing the ship's composition and behavior. Using state-of-the-art telescopes and drones equipped with sensors, they discovered something astonishing. The Star Destroyers weren't powered by conventional means. Their energy signatures matched nothing currently understood by science. Furthermore, microscopic etchings on their surfaces hinted at a language unlike any recorded on Earth. Could they truly belong to an ancient civilization? Dr. Carter shared her findings during a press conference broadcast worldwide. Her calm demeanor reassured many viewers, though her words carried a note of caution. "These ships may appear protective, but we can't assume they're friendly," she warned. "We need to proceed carefully, gather more information, and prepare for all possible scenarios." Her advice came none too soon. As days passed, tensions escalated between Earth and the unknown entities controlling the Star Destroyers. Attempts to communicate yielded no response. Radio signals, laser pulses, even physical messages launched via rockets, all were ignored. The silence was deafening, leaving humanity to wonder whether the ships were allies, enemies, or something else entirely. Then came the moment that confirmed everyone's worst fears and greatest hopes. A fleet of Zorathian scout ships entered Earth's orbit, broadcasting a message loud and clear: surrender or face annihilation. The arrogant tone of their declarations sparked outrage among humans, who rallied together despite their differences. Protests erupted in major cities, with crowds chanting slogans like "Earth United" and "Not Today." Leaders convened emergency summits, vowing to defend the planet at all costs. For the first time in history, humanity stood united against a common threat. And yet, amidst the turmoil, one question lingered in everyone's minds. What would happen when the Star Destroyers finally acted? Would they intervene on behalf of Earth? Or would they unleash destruction on a scale unimaginable? Only time would tell. But for now, the world watched and waited, holding its collective breath as the fate of humanity hung precariously in the balance. The days following the arrival of the Star Destroyers were unlike anything humanity had ever experienced. Life on Earth felt suspended, as though the entire planet was holding its breath. People went about their routines, working, eating, sleeping, but with a constant undercurrent of unease. Conversations revolved around one topic: the massive ships hovering ominously in the sky. Social media feeds were flooded with theories, memes, and videos capturing every angle of the mysterious vessels. Some people prayed fervently, hoping for divine intervention. Others stockpiled food and supplies, preparing for the worst. Governments scrambled to maintain order, issuing statements urging calm while secretly bracing for potential disaster. Meanwhile, aboard the Zorathian command ship orbiting just beyond Earth's atmosphere, chaos reigned supreme. Commander Vrax, paced back and forth across the dimly lit bridge, his claws clicking against the metal floor. His advisors huddled nervously nearby, whispering among themselves, but careful not to interrupt him. The Zorathians were used to being feared, accustomed to conquering lesser species without resistance. But this was unprecedented. Never before had they encountered a civilization capable of producing such advanced technology, or at least, hiding it so effectively until now. Brack stopped abruptly and turned to face his crew. "Tell me again," he growled, his voice low and dangerous. "How is it possible that these primitives managed to build weapons far superior to ours?" Krill, the wiry scientist who had earlier suggested the ships might belong to an ancient race, swallowed hard. He knew better than to contradict the commander directly, especially when Vrax's temper flared. Still, someone had to provide answers. Clearing his throat, Krill replied cautiously, "As I mentioned earlier, sir, our analysis indicates that these ships are relics from a bygone era. They predate modern human civilization, possibly originating thousands, if not millions of, years ago. It's likely they've been dormant underground or hidden beneath the oceans until something triggered their activation. And what could that trigger be?" Vrax snapped, his tail lashing behind him like a whip. "Was it us? Did our approach awaken them?" Krill hesitated, glancing at the other officers for support. When no one spoke up, he continued reluctantly. "It's possible, sir. Our scans detected residual energy signatures matching those emitted by our own scout ships. If the Star Destroyers were designed to respond to external threats, then yes. It's conceivable that our presence activated them." A tense silence fell over the room. Every Zorathian present understood the gravity of Krill's words. If the Star Destroyers were indeed defensive mechanisms, then humanity might not even know how to control them. That meant two possibilities. Either the ships would attack indiscriminately, wiping out both friend and foe alike, or they operated autonomously, programmed to protect Earth at all costs. Neither scenario boded well for the Zorathians. Brax clenched his fists, his sharp nails, digging into his palms. This mission was supposed to be straightforward, a quick invasion, resource extraction, and departure. Now, thanks to these unforeseen complications, everything was in jeopardy. Failure wasn't an option. Returning home empty-handed would mean disgrace, exile, or worse. Yet pressing forward carried equal risks. What if the Star Destroyers unleashed their full power? Even the most heavily armed Zorathian warships wouldn't stand a chance against such overwhelming force. "We need more information," Vrax declared finally, breaking the silence. "Send out a probe. Keep it cloaked and maintain safe distance. Analyze their capabilities, weaknesses, anything useful, and prepare the fleet for immediate withdrawal if necessary." His orders sent ripples of anxiety through the crew. Retreat? From a primitive planet like Earth? Such a decision would mark the first time in Zorathian history that they abandoned a target. But Vrax's tone left no room for argument. Reluctantly, the technicians set to work deploying the probe, their movements hurried yet precise. Time was running out and everyone aboard the command ship knew it. Back on Earth, tensions continued to mount. While governments debated strategies and scientists pored over data, ordinary citizens struggled to make sense of the situation. In cities like Mumbai, Lagos, and Rio de Janeiro, protests grew louder and more passionate. Crowds chanted slogans, demanding unity and resilience, vowing never to surrender to alien invaders. Religious leaders called for prayer vigils, urging followers to seek guidance and strength from higher powers. Meanwhile, conspiracy theorists took center stage, spreading wild rumors about secret government experiments, alien alliances, and apocalyptic prophecies. Amidst the chaos, Dr. Emily Carter and her team worked tirelessly in their London laboratory. They had barely slept since the Star Destroyers appeared, driven by a mix of curiosity and desperation. Using cutting-edge equipment, they analyzed every piece of information available, from drone footage to satellite imagery to spectral readings. Slowly but surely, patterns began to emerge. One breakthrough came late at night, when a junior researcher named Alex noticed something peculiar. Zooming in on high-resolution images of the ship's surfaces, he spotted faint markings etched into the metal, At first glance, they resembled random scratches, but closer inspection revealed intricate symbols forming complex patterns. Excited, Alex alerted Dr. Carter, who immediately gathered the team for further examination. "These aren't random," Dr. Carter murmured, tracing the symbols with her finger on a digital display. "They're deliberate. Look at the symmetry, the repetition. This is some kind of language." "But whose language?" asked another researcher, frowning. "It doesn't match any known writing system on Earth." Dr. Carter nodded thoughtfully. "Exactly, which means it belongs to whoever built these ships or whoever controls them now." The discovery sparked renewed hope within the scientific community. If they could decipher the symbols, perhaps they could communicate with the entities behind the Star Destroyers. Maybe even convince them to side with humanity against the Zorathians. Of course, there was also the possibility that the symbols held warnings or instructions meant for entirely different purposes. Either way, cracking the code became their top priority. As days turned into weeks, humanity's resolve only strengthened. Despite the fear and uncertainty, people found ways to come together. Neighbors helped each other fortify homes, sharing resources and offering comfort. Artists painted murals depicting the Star Destroyers as guardians watching over Earth. Musicians composed songs celebrating courage and defiance. Even children joined in, drawing pictures of aliens shaking hands with humans and posting them online with messages of peace. Yet not everyone shared this optimism. In certain corners of the globe, panic led to violence. Riots broke out in overcrowded cities where resources were already scarce. Looters ransacked stores, stealing whatever they could carry. Opportunistic criminals exploited the chaos, committing crimes under cover of darkness. Governments deployed military forces to restore order, but clashes between soldiers and civilians resulted in casualties. The fragile unity achieved earlier began to fray at the edges. Despite these setbacks, global cooperation reached unprecedented levels. Nations that had once been rivals set aside differences to focus on survival. Joint task forces formed overnight, combining expertise from multiple countries. Satellite networks synchronized efforts to monitor the Star Destroyers' movements. Scientists collaborated across continents, sharing data and insights in real time. For the first time in decades, humanity acted as one cohesive unit rather than a collection of fragmented states. Then came the moment everyone had been dreading and anticipating. The Zorathian probe emerged from stealth mode, its sleek form gliding silently toward one of the Star Destroyers. Designed for reconnaissance, the probe emitted low-level scanning beams intended to gather intelligence without triggering alarms. However, it underestimated the ship's sensors. Within seconds, the nearest Star Destroyer responded with devastating precision. A pulse of energy erupted from the vessel's hull, striking the probe with pinpoint accuracy. There was no explosion, no fiery blaze, just a flash of light followed by complete disintegration. The probe vanished instantly, leaving behind nothing but scattered particles drifting harmlessly through space. On board the Zorathian command ship, monitors flickered as the feed cut off abruptly. Gasps echoed through the bridge as reality sank in. The Star Destroyers weren't just passive observers. They were active defenders, ready to strike at the slightest provocation. "Commander," Frack staggered backward, his face pale with shock. Never in his wildest nightmares had he imagined facing an enemy so powerful. Turning to his crew, he barked orders with newfound urgency. "All units, retreat immediately. Pull back to safe distance. Do not engage." Panic rippled through the ranks as pilots scrambled to comply. Engines roared to life, propelling the fleet away from Earth's orbit. For the first time in centuries, the Zorathians fled a battlefield, not out of cowardice but sheer survival instinct. Their dreams of conquest lay shattered, replaced by a stark realization. Humanity wasn't alone in this fight. Whatever force controlled the Star Destroyers, it was far stronger than anything they'd ever encountered. On Earth, news of the Zorathian retreat spread like wildfire. Cheers erupted in streets and living rooms worldwide as people celebrated their unexpected. The Zorathian retreat sent shockwaves through the galaxy, but for humanity, it marked the beginning of a new chapter. one filled with both hope and uncertainty. The Star Destroyers remained in orbit, silent sentinels watching over Earth as if standing guard against future threats. Their presence was comforting to some and unsettling to others. While many celebrated the apparent protection they offered, others couldn't shake the feeling that these ships were too powerful to trust entirely. What were their intentions? Were they truly here to help, or did they have plans of their own? In the days following the Zorathians' withdrawal, governments worldwide convened an emergency summit, unlike any before. Leaders from every nation gathered in Geneva, Switzerland to discuss the next steps. For once, political rivalries took a backseat to survival. The United Nations General Assembly Hall buzzed with activity as delegates debated strategies, shared intelligence, and brainstormed ways to communicate with, or at least understand, the Star Destroyers. Dr. Emily Carter attended the summit. As a key advisor, her expertise invaluable after weeks of studying the mysterious ships. She stood at the podium, addressing the assembly with calm authority. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment, "we are living through an unprecedented event in human history. These Star Destroyers represent technology far beyond our current understanding. However, we cannot assume they are benevolent simply because they defended us against the Zorathians." Her words hung heavy in the air, prompting murmurs of agreement and concern among the attendees. She continued, "Our priority must be twofold. First, to determine who controls these ships. Second, to establish communication if possible. We need answers, and quickly." The room erupted into discussion as leaders weighed her suggestions. Some argued for caution, urging patience until more data could be collected. Others pushed for immediate action, fearing another extraterrestrial threat might emerge while humanity remained vulnerable. Ultimately, a consensus formed. A global coalition would be established, combining resources from all nations to study the Star Destroyers and prepare for whatever came next. Meanwhile, amateur astronomers played an unexpected, yet crucial role in unraveling the mystery. Among them was a young man named Daniel Hayes, a college dropout with a passion for stargazing. From his small apartment in Chicago, Daniel spent countless nights poring over telescope footage and cross-referencing data with online forums dedicated to space exploration. It was during one such late-night session that he stumbled upon something extraordinary. While reviewing archival images taken decades earlier, Daniel noticed faint outlines resembling the Star Destroyers buried deep within Earth's crust. At first, he dismissed it as a glitch or distortion caused by outdated equipment. But when he compared the shapes to recent photos of the ships now hovering above Earth, his heart raced. The resemblance was undeniable. He shared his findings on a popular astronomy forum, attaching annotated screenshots and detailed explanations. Within hours, his post went viral. Scientists around the world took notice, including Dr. Carter's team. They reached out to Daniel, inviting him to join their efforts. Reluctant at first, after all, he wasn't a trained professional, he eventually agreed, realizing the significance of his discovery. Together, they pieced together fragments of evidence suggesting that the Star Destroyers had been hidden beneath Earth's surface for millennia. Ancient geological surveys hinted at massive underground structures, long dismissed as natural formations or anomalies. Now it seemed clear. These ships weren't alien artifacts dropped from the stars. They were homegrown relics, buried eons ago by an advanced civilization whose existence had faded into myth. This revelation sparked heated debates among historians, archaeologists, and scientists alike. Could these ships belong to Atlantis, Lemuria, or some other lost society mentioned in legends? Or were they created by an even older race, predating recorded history entirely? One thing was certain. Whoever built them possessed knowledge and technology far superior to anything humanity currently wielded. How had they achieved such feats? And why had they vanished without a trace? As theories multiplied, so did questions about the ship's purpose. If they were ancient protectors, why had they remained dormant for so long? What triggered their activation? Was it the arrival of the Zorathians, as Krill had speculated? Or was there another factor at play? A signal, a code, or perhaps even a prophecy embedded in Earth's DNA itself? To answer these questions, researchers turned to the symbols etched onto the ship's surfaces. Deciphering them became a top priority. Linguists, cryptographers, and AI specialists collaborated tirelessly, feeding patterns into supercomputers, designed to analyze complex datasets. Progress was slow but steady. Over time, fragments of meaning began to emerge. Certain symbols appeared to correspond with celestial events, while others resembled mathematical formulas or chemical compositions. A breakthrough came when a team in Japan identified a recurring pattern linked to Earth's magnetic field fluctuations. This suggested that the ships might respond not only to external stimuli like the Zorathian probe, but also to internal changes within the planet itself. Public interest soared as updates trickled out. News outlets covered every development, fueling speculation and excitement. Documentaries aired nightly, featuring interviews with experts and dramatized reenactments of potential scenarios. Schoolchildren drew pictures of star destroyers alongside dinosaurs and astronauts, imagining how they fit into Earth's timeline. Even skeptics found themselves drawn into the mystery, unable to resist the allure of uncovering humanity's deepest secrets. Yet not everyone viewed the situation optimistically. Conspiracy theorists seized the opportunity to spread fear, claiming the star destroyers were Trojan horses waiting to betray humanity. Online forums buzzed with warnings of impending doom, urging followers to prepare for the worst. Doomsday. Preppers stockpiled weapons and bunkers, convinced the ships would turn hostile sooner or later. Religious groups interpreted the event as divine intervention, preaching sermons about Judgment Day and salvation. Amidst this whirlwind of emotions, ordinary citizens adapted to life under the watchful eyes of the star destroyers. Children gazed up at the sky during recess, pointing excitedly at the glowing vessels. Artists painted murals depicting scenes of unity between humans and aliens. Musicians composed ballads celebrating resilience and hope. Yet beneath the surface, anxiety lingered. People wondered whether peace would last or if another threat loomed just beyond the horizon. For Commander Vrax and the Zorathians, defeat burned like acid in their veins. Retreating from Earth had been humiliating enough, but the implications of their failure haunted them daily. Word of the incident spread rapidly throughout the galaxy, reaching rival species and galactic councils alike. Once feared conquerors, the Zorathians now faced ridicule and scorn. Neighboring civilizations mocked their inability to subjugate a seemingly primitive planet. Trade agreements faltered as allies distanced themselves, wary of associating with losers. Vrax refused to accept defeat quietly. In secret meetings aboard his command ship, he plotted revenge. His advisors warned against further engagement, citing the overwhelming power of the star destroyers. But Vrax's pride wouldn't allow him to abandon the mission entirely. Instead, he devised a plan to exploit Earth's weaknesses indirectly. Using covert operatives, he intended to sow discord among humans, turning them against each other, and ultimately against the star destroyers. Divide and conquer, he reasoned, might still work if executed carefully. Back on Earth, tensions simmered beneath the surface. While global cooperation had reached unprecedented levels, cracks began to form. Wealthy nations hoarded resources, refusing to share advanced technologies developed during the crisis. Poorer countries accused them of greed and selfishness, threatening to withdraw from the coalition altogether. Environmental activists protested the increased militarization of space, warning that humanity risked repeating past mistakes by prioritizing warfare over peace. These divisions didn't go unnoticed by the star destroyers, or rather, whatever intelligence controlled them. Sensors detected fluctuations in Earth's social and political climate, triggering subtle adjustments in the ship's behavior. Lights blinked intermittently, casting eerie shadows across cities below. Energy pulses rippled outward, harmless, yet noticeable. Each action served as a reminder. The ships were still here, watching, waiting. One evening, as dusk settled over London, Dr. Carter sat alone in her lab, staring at a holographic projection of the star destroyers. Despite months of research, so much remained unknown. Who were their creators? Why had they chosen this moment to awaken? And most importantly, what did they want from humanity? She leaned back in her chair, rubbing her temples. Exhaustion weighed heavily on her shoulders, but her mind refused to rest. As she pondered these questions, a sudden realization struck her. Perhaps the ships weren't tools of destruction or domination. Maybe they were teachers, guardians meant to guide humanity toward a higher level of existence. After all, their defense of Earth proved they valued life. Their silence suggested patience, wisdom, and restraint. With renewed determination, Dr. Yu Carter resolved to shift the focus of her research. Instead of Vi, Dr. Emily Carter's decision to view the Star Destroyers as potential allies rather than mysteries to be solved marked a turning point in humanity's relationship with the colossal ships. Her shift in perspective wasn't just theoretical. It translated into action almost immediately. She proposed a bold initiative. Instead of passively analyzing the ships from afar, humanity should attempt to communicate directly, peacefully, and respectfully. This idea sparked heated debates among scientists, politicians, and military leaders. Some argued that approaching the Star Destroyers too aggressively could provoke them, while others feared appearing weak or unprepared if they waited any longer. Despite the disagreements, Dr. Carter's proposal gained traction. The global coalition, tasked with studying the ships, agreed to move forward cautiously. A team of experts was assembled, including linguists, engineers, physicists, and cultural anthropologists. Their goal was simple yet daunting: craft a message that conveyed humanity's gratitude for their protection against the Zorathians, acknowledged their mysterious origins, and expressed a desire to coexist peacefully. But how do you speak to something or someone you know nothing about? The first step involved deciphering the symbols etched onto the ship's surfaces. Progress had already been made thanks to Daniel Hayes and his amateur discoveries, but now the effort intensified. Teams worked around the clock, feeding patterns into advanced AI systems capable of identifying correlations between the symbols and known languages. Slowly, fragments of meaning began to emerge. Certain sequences appeared to represent concepts like life, protection, and harmony. Others seemed tied to celestial bodies or natural phenomena such as stars, oceans, and storms. These findings suggested that the creators of the ships viewed themselves as part of a greater cosmic order, a philosophy not unlike some human belief systems. Using this knowledge, the coalition crafted a visual message designed to transcend language barriers. It featured images of Earth's diverse landscapes, species, and cultures alongside mathematical equations, symbolizing universal truths. At its core was a single phrase written in multiple human languages: "We are grateful." The message was then transmitted via laser pulses directed at one of the nearest Star Destroyers. Humanity held its collective breath, waiting for a response. Days passed without incident. The ships remained silent, their glow steady and unchanging. Doubts crept in among the coalition members. Had the message failed? Was it ignored, or worse, misunderstood? Public optimism began to wane as media outlets speculated about the lack of reaction. Conspiracy theorists seized the opportunity to claim that the Star Destroyers were ignoring humanity because they considered humans unworthy of attention. Then, on the seventh day, something extraordinary happened. One of the ships emitted a low-frequency hum that resonated across the planet. Buildings vibrated slightly and animals grew restless, but no harm came to anyone. Moments later, a beam of light shot down from the ship, striking a remote desert region in Australia. When investigators arrived at the site, they discovered a massive holographic projection hovering above the sand. It depicted a swirling galaxy, surrounded by intricate patterns resembling the symbols on the ship's hulls. Embedded within the display were familiar images, the same ones sent in the original message, but rearranged and enhanced with additional details. Scientists interpreted the projection as a form of acknowledgement. The Star Destroyers hadn't simply received the message. They had responded by expanding upon it. They added layers of information, revealing glimpses of distant worlds, ancient civilizations, and advanced technologies. Most strikingly, The imagery included depictions of humans working alongside alien beings, suggesting a future where cooperation between species was possible. For the first time, humanity realized that the Star Destroyers weren't merely machines. They were emissaries of a higher intelligence. News of the breakthrough spread rapidly, reigniting hope and wonder worldwide. Social media exploded with posts celebrating the apparent goodwill of the Star Destroyers. Religious leaders praised the event as divine intervention, while secular thinkers hailed it as proof of humanity's place in a vast, interconnected universe. Even skeptics found themselves awestruck by the implications. Could this mean Earth was being invited to join a galactic community? As excitement mounted, Commander Vrax watched the unfolding events from his command ship with growing unease. His plan to destabilize Earth through covert operations had barely begun, but the sudden communication between humans and the Star Destroyers complicated matters. If the ships truly intended to protect humanity, his attempts to sow discord would likely backfire spectacularly. Worse still, news of the holographic projection reached other corners of the galaxy, further eroding the Zorathians' reputation. Rival species mocked their inability to conquer a planet defended by ancient guardians. Trade partners severed ties, fearing association with a failing empire. Vrax knew he couldn't afford another failure. Summoning his top advisors, he devised a desperate new strategy. Instead of targeting Earth directly, he would focus on undermining the Star Destroyers themselves. His spies uncovered reports of energy fluctuations emanating from the ships whenever they interacted with humanity. These fluctuations, though minor, hinted at vulnerabilities. Perhaps, Vrax reasoned, the Star Destroyers relied on Earth's resources to maintain their power. If he could disrupt those resources, by contaminating water supplies, sabotaging power grids, or even detonating underground explosives near suspected burial sites, he might weaken the ships enough to render them useless. It was a risky gamble, but Vrax saw no alternative. Ordering his fleet to remain hidden beyond Earth's orbit, he deployed teams of operatives disguised as ordinary citizens. Their mission was clear: infiltrate key locations and execute precision strikes aimed at destabilizing the Star Destroyers. Success depended on secrecy and speed. If caught, they would deny all ties to the Zorathian regime, framing their actions as rogue acts of terrorism. Back on Earth, the Coalition continued its efforts to understand the Star Destroyers. Encouraged by the positive response to their initial message, they prepared a second transmission. This time, the content focused on questions rather than gratitude. Images of Earth's history, achievements, and struggles were combined with queries about the ship's origins, purpose, and controllers. Once again, the message was sent via laser pulses, accompanied by radio waves carrying musical compositions representing humanity's creativity and emotions. The response came quicker, this time. Within hours, the same desert location lit up with another holographic projection. This one was more detailed, featuring what appeared to be a timeline spanning millions of years. It showed the rise and fall of civilizations, the evolution of technology, and the cyclical nature of life and death. Embedded within the sequence were clues pointing to an ancient civilization responsible for creating the Star Destroyers, a race that had once thrived on Earth before vanishing mysteriously. The final image depicted a glowing orb surrounded by constellations, hinting at a connection between the ships and the cosmos itself. Dr. Carter and her team marveled at the depth of the information provided. "They're teaching us," she whispered, during a debriefing session. Not just communicating, but actively sharing knowledge. Her observations sparked inspiration. What if the Star Destroyers weren't just relics of the past, but tools meant to guide humanity toward a brighter future? Could they serve as bridges connecting Earth to the wider universe? These possibilities fueled discussions at the highest levels of government. Some advocated for launching manned missions to explore the ships up close, while others urged caution, warning of unforeseen risks. Amidst these deliberations, signs of trouble emerged. Reports poured in from various regions detailing strange disruptions, blackouts in major cities, contaminated water sources, and mysterious tremors near geological sites linked to the ships. Though initially dismissed as coincidences, The pattern became impossible to ignore. Someone or something was deliberately targeting Earth's infrastructure. Daniel Hayes, who had become an integral part of Dr. Carter's team, noticed something alarming while reviewing satellite data. Energy signatures around the Star Destroyers fluctuated erratically during each disruption. Connecting the dots, he realized the attacks weren't random. They were calculated strikes aimed at weakening the ship's connection to Earth. He alerted Dr. Carter immediately, and together they presented their findings to the coalition. The implications were chilling. If the Star Destroyers lost their power source, they might deactivate entirely, or worse, malfunction and cause catastrophic damage. The coalition scrambled to bolster security measures, deploying military units to protect critical locations. Meanwhile, forensic investigations traced the sabotage attempts back to shadowy figures operating under aliases. Fingerprints matched records belonging to individuals with ties to foreign governments and private corporations, raising suspicions of international conspiracies. But the truth lay closer to home, or rather, farther away. Unknown to humanity, the Zorathians watched from the shadows, biding their time. Each successful attack emboldened Vrax, convincing him that victory was still within reach. Yet every setback reminded him of the immense power arrayed. The battle for Earth's future had reached a critical juncture. The Star Destroyers, once silent and enigmatic sentinels, now seemed to pulse with life as they responded to the escalating sabotage attempts orchestrated by Commander Vrax and his Zorathian operatives. Humanity found itself caught in the crossfire, not just between two alien forces but also within its own ranks. While most nations worked tirelessly to protect the ships and preserve their newfound alliance, others harbored doubts about the Star Destroyers' true intentions. Conspiracy theories ran rampant, fueled by fearmongers who claimed the ships were biding their time before turning on humanity. This internal division complicated efforts to counteract the Zorathians' covert operations. Dr. Emily Carter and her team remained at the forefront of the crisis, analyzing every piece of data linked to the attacks. Daniel Hayes played a pivotal role, using his knack for pattern recognition to track energy fluctuations around the Star Destroyers. His work revealed something alarming. Each sabotage attempt wasn't just targeting Earth's resources, it was probing for weaknesses in the ships themselves. The Zorathians were testing the destroyers' limits, searching for vulnerabilities that could be exploited on a larger scale. If left unchecked, these strikes could destabilize the ships entirely, risking catastrophic consequences. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Dr. Carter proposed an audacious plan. Instead of waiting for the next attack, humanity needed to take the initiative. She suggested broadcasting a global message not only to warn people about the Zorathians' activities, but also to demonstrate unwavering support for the Star Destroyers. "We need to show them we're allies, not liabilities," she argued during a high-level meeting with coalition leaders. "If the ships sense our unity, they might amplify their defenses, or even retaliate against the attackers." Her idea faced resistance from military officials who feared provoking the Star Destroyers into hostile action, but public sentiment tipped the scales in her favor. Across social media platforms, citizens rallied behind the proposal, sharing hashtags like Stand with the Stars and organizing candlelight vigils under the glowing vessels. Moved by this outpouring of solidarity, coalition leaders gave Dr. Carter the green light to proceed. The resulting broadcast was unlike anything humanity had ever attempted. Simultaneously transmitted in multiple languages through television, radio, and online channels. It featured heartfelt messages from world leaders, scientists, artists, and ordinary citizens expressing gratitude and loyalty to the Star Destroyers. Accompanying the speeches were visuals of humans working together, rescuing stranded animals, rebuilding communities after natural disasters, and celebrating cultural diversity. At the end of the broadcast, a single sentence appeared on screens: "Worldwide, we stand united." To everyone's astonishment, the Star Destroyers reacted almost instantly. Their glow intensified, bathing cities in soft golden light. Then, one by one, the ships began moving, not toward Earth, but outward into space. For a brief moment, panic gripped the globe as people wondered if the ships were abandoning them. But instead of disappearing, The destroyers formed a protective perimeter around Earth, creating what looked like a shimmering shield visible even to the naked eye. It was clear. The Star Destroyers had accepted humanity's gesture and were preparing to defend the planet more actively. Commander Vrax watched the spectacle unfold from his command ship with mounting dread. His carefully laid plans were unraveling before his eyes. Not only had humanity aligned itself with the Star Destroyers, but the ships themselves had demonstrated capabilities far beyond his initial estimates. The protective barrier surrounding Earth rendered further sabotage attempts futile. Any weapon fired at the planet would simply bounce off the shimmering shield. Worse still, the Star Destroyers' movements hinted at heightened awareness. They weren't just passive defenders anymore. They were actively hunting for threats. Desperation drove Vrax to make a reckless decision. Ignoring the protests of his advisors, he ordered a full-scale assault on the barrier. Every available warship in the Zorathian fleet converged on Earth, weapons primed and ready to fire. Thousands of missiles streaked through space, colliding with the shield in dazzling explosions of light. Yet, despite the barrage, the barrier held firm. Each impact rippled across its surface like water disturbed by raindrops, dissipating harmlessly without causing damage. Enraged by the futility of his attack, Vrax issued a final command. Activate the fleet's ultimate weapon, a plasma cannon capable of obliterating entire moons. The cannon charged slowly, its hum reverberating through the void of space. On board the command ship, tension crackled like static electricity. Everyone knew this was their last chance. If the plasma blast failed to penetrate the barrier, retreat would be their only option, and disgrace their only reward. Back on Earth, sensors detected the buildup of energy emanating from the Zorathian fleet. Scientists scrambled to calculate the potential impact, while governments braced for the worst. Public announcements urged calm, but fear spread quickly as news of the impending strike reached civilians. Families huddled together, praying for salvation. In parks and town squares, crowds gathered to watch the sky, their faces illuminated by the eerie glow of the Star Destroyers. Then, just as the plasma cannon prepared to fire, the Star Destroyers acted. Without warning, beams of concentrated energy shot out from the ships, striking individual Zorathian vessels with surgical precision. One by one, the enemy fleet disintegrated, reduced to nothing more than clouds of dust drifting aimlessly through space. Within minutes, the entire armada was gone, all except for Commander Vrax's command ship, which remained intact, but immobilized. Its systems fried by the same energy pulses. A heavy silence fell over the galaxy as the reality of the defeat sank in. The Star Destroyers hadn't merely defended Earth, they had annihilated the Zorathian threat entirely. For the first time in centuries, the invaders had been utterly defeated, their empire crumbling under the weight of their hubris. News of the victory spread rapidly, reaching distant civilizations and galactic councils alike. Some celebrated the downfall of the tyrannical Zorathians, while others viewed the event with cautious optimism, wondering whether the Star Destroyers posed a new kind of threat. On Earth, jubilation erupted. Fireworks lit up the night sky, blending with the radiant glow of the Star Destroyer's shield. Crowds cheered in the streets, waving flags and banners adorned with images of the ships. Social media overflowed with messages of gratitude and awe. Musicians composed symphonies honoring the mysterious guardians, while writers penned stories imagining futures where humans and aliens coexisted peacefully. Even skeptics couldn't deny the significance of what had happened. Earth had survived an existential threat and emerged stronger than ever. Yet amidst the celebrations, questions lingered. Who, or what, controlled the Star Destroyers? Why had they chosen to intervene so decisively? And what role did humanity play in their grand design? These mysteries spurred further research, with teams led by Dr. Carter delving deeper into the symbols etched onto the ship's surfaces. Progress was slow, but promising. Fragments of meaning continued to emerge, hinting at a vast cosmic narrative, stretching back millions of years. Some believed the Star Destroyers were instruments of peace, created to safeguard fledgling civilizations until they matured enough to join a galactic community. Others speculated they were weapons of last resort, deployed only when all other options failed. Regardless of the truth, the presence of the Star Destroyers united humanity in ways never thought possible. Nations set aside differences to focus on exploration and survival, knowing they weren't alone in the universe anymore. Space programs received unprecedented funding, enabling ambitious missions aimed at understanding the ships and the wider cosmos. Artists envisioned utopian futures where humans traveled among the stars alongside benevolent alien races. Philosophers pondered humanity's place in a universe teeming with wonders and dangers. Meanwhile, aboard his crippled command ship, Commander Vrax faced the consequences of his failure. Stripped of rank and banished from Zorathian society, he became a pariah, a living reminder of the Empire's downfall. As he drifted through space, his thoughts turned inward. He replayed the events leading up to the catastrophe, searching for answers. Had arrogance blinded him? Or had fate conspired against him, ensuring Earth's triumph regardless of his actions? Though the immediate danger had passed, whispers of other cosmic forces lingered. The Star Destroyers remained vigilant, their movements suggesting they monitored not just Earth but the entire solar system. Occasionally they emitted low-frequency hums, resonating across continents and oceans. Some interpreted these sounds as warnings, while others saw them as reassurances. Either way, humanity understood one thing clearly: the universe was vast and unpredictable, and Earth's skies might part again someday. For now, however, there was peace. Beneath the watchful gaze of the Star Destroyers, humanity forged ahead, determined to build a brighter future. The scars of the past served as reminders of how fragile existence truly was, but also of how resilient hope could be. And as long as the ship stayed, humanity knew it wouldn't face the unknown alone.